welcome to the public hearing for the budget, 2021 budget. Let's put the Pledge of Allegiance before we start here. Pledge of Allegiance to the flag.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the Republic,
To the, what's your stand?
one nation,
One nation,
under
the
God,
United States of under God,
indivisible,
with
liberty,
liberty
With liberty.
and justice for all.
and justice for all.
Grace, can you take roll call, please?
Yes. Councilman Scaringi,
Present.
Councilwoman Rossanetti,
Present.
Councilwoman Riley, Councilwoman Friedman,
Present.
Councilman Burns,
Present.
Councilman Strawn,
present.
President Scanlon.
Present.
That's 6 here, 1 absent, Riley.
This is Councilwoman Friedman. Councilwoman Riley sent me a message that she's having technical difficulties, but she is trying to log into the meeting.
Okay, does her link work?
Let's see. I'll ask her, but I know she is actively trying to get in, and for some reason
Okay.
it's not letting her.
We can continue with the meeting here. She's also free, but if you keep in touch with her, if she wants to do something different. Oh,
Hold on. All right, Tom, go ahead.
all right, Councilwoman Freeman, did you hear me?
No, I didn't. I'm sorry. The phone made you cut out.
Okay. If can you keep in touch with Angela Riley, and if she needs something different, let me know. We're going to continue the meeting. I hope she can hear us at least.
Okay. She says that the link is not working, and she's restarting her computer to see if that works.
Okay.
All right, let me lay some ground rules about tonight's public
Mr.
hearing on the
President?
budget. Yes. Councilman Scaringi, go ahead.
Mr. President, I'm sorry. Thank you, Mr. President. Just a point of information. I don't know if anybody else is experiencing this, but I'm experiencing an incredible amount of lag on this. I don't know if anybody else is, but
This is Councilman Burns.
audio.
On the Pledge of Allegiance, I don't know, everybody was lagged. It was, I don't know if we do that, if that's just the way it was, but I noticed that.
Yeah, I experienced the same thing, Councilman.
Grace, do you have any ideas, Grace, what we should do?
Is it still like that? The only thing I can think of would be like Wi-Fi connection, but there's no way I can do anything on my end with that.
Councilman Rossanetti, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Councilwoman Freeman, can you hear me?
Yes.
Councilman Strawn?
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right, good. Councilman Burns, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
May I
Councilman
suggest
Scaringi.
that, this is Sharon, may I suggest that council did what it did during the budget hearings, which is just mute if you're not speaking? And that might help with some of the overlapping voices or sounds.
And I've also noticed that people have turned off their webcams, and that seems to be helping a lot too. I don't know if this is a go-to meeting thing. Maybe it just can't handle the overall bandwidth, but it's better to me now that everyone seems to not have their webcams on. I don't know if that makes a difference, but.
Councilwoman Freeman, is Councilwoman Riley still attempting to log in?
Yes, she is. She said that she, in the meanwhile, is going to call in and use the access code instead of the GoToWebinar link.
Okay.
I'll read the roll.
Okay, then I will mark her as here.
Grace, wait to do that until she logs in.
Okay,
I mean, until we hear her on the phone.
Can you
okay.
send her another link?
If the link,
It's the, Councilman Burns, the link for the phone is on the same link as you're logging into your computer.
This is Councilwoman Friedman again. I clicked the link on my phone and I was able to log in, but I normally like to use my phone and my computer so I could see everyone. And the email that I tried to on my computer log in, there's no webinar ID, which is normally what I use. So even though I'm logged in, there's also something fishy about the email. For some reason, is different than how it normally is.
I just sent
So I don't know
Councilwoman
if that's
Riley another link.
This is Councilwoman Riley. I called in using the number thanks to Councilwoman Friedman. Yes, I've never had issues before, but I could not get in. So,
Okay. I sent another link to the same email, so maybe that will work.
okay.
All right, as long as we're all here, let's start with the meeting, please. So let me lay some ground rules for the public hearing for tonight's budget for 2021 budget. The ground rules are as following. So stay on topic with the budget. If the comments, tonight's public comments should be about the budget only, anything about the budget process or what you feel you need to talk about for the budget. Any profanity, you will be cut off. If you go off topic from the budget, I will stop you and give you a chance to refocus on the budget. So let's proceed with the phone calls. Grace, please put the number out there with the number to call.
Yes, let me plug it back in.
And Grace, please announce the public hearing.
Okay, City Council will hold a 2021 budget public hearing today, Tuesday, October 27th, 2020, starting at 5:15 virtually. Members of the public wishing to submit comment to the public hearing may do so prior to the meeting, which is about to start, or call in via telephone during the public hearing at 607-772-7101, as City Hall will be closed to the public during the meeting. Again, that number to call is 607-772-7101.
All right, great. Number, please, and we'll move forward. Yes.
Okay. 772-7101. Hi, you're calling for public comment? Okay, what is your full name and full address for the record? Okay, can you just say your last name one more time? I apologize. Okay, can you spell that for me? Okay. Okay. Yep. Okay, let me put you on speaker. Okay, this caller's full name and address for the record is Abby Malillo, 51 Seminary Avenue. You may go. You may speak.
All right. So we've held multiple community forums, and we've heard from the people in the Binghamton community, and it's clear. Cops are not only unhelpful, they actively cause harm against those whom they're supposed to protect. We must reallocate funds in order to proactively address these issues that cops are failing to address themselves. It's clear that communities with the most resources have the least crime, and crime does not have to happen in a vacuum. It occurs when people are enduring the everyday violence of poverty, hunger, and homelessness. I'd like to see the city defund 2 grade 1 cops and reallocate that $74,909 towards 20 community counselors to address those struggling with their mental health and drug addiction. Thank you.
Thank you. Again, the number to call is 772-7101.
This is Councilwoman Riley.
Yes.
I believe last meeting, he mentioned write-ins as well.
Calling for public comment? Okay, please state your full name and address for the record. Okay, give me 1 second.
Councilwoman Riley, are you talking about people ready to the clerk's office?
Yes. He
Okay.
mentioned last week he had 3 at that
Someone on the
time.
wall right now. This is Dominic Michelizzi. He lives at 60 Rush Ave. So you may begin.
I spent the last year interviewing individuals who have spent time in prison or jail in New York State. Some of the most horrific stories I've heard have come from right here in Broome County. Some statements from former Broome County jail inmates include: the living conditions were absolutely deplorable. There were bugs, bodily fluids, fingernails, hair, and urine on the wall. Many inmates are only allowed to shower 3 times in 7 days, with 1 bar of jail-issued soap. I went on a hunger strike for 5 days, and the officers never even told anyone. It was like there was a diarrhea explosion on the wall. I was shackled to a bed when I gave birth to my son, which is illegal. I was forced into labor, then shackled to a mat on the floor. How is it sanitary or even possible that we can't buy our own underwear? They forced us to wear and share our own underwear over and over again. What if somebody has hepatitis or at least bodily fluid? They don't use bleach or detergent in the clothes. The guards encourage bullying, especially with girls who have hygiene issues or mental illness. I've heard officers say, "Why don't you just kill yourself already?" When I got out of jail, I documented every single name, date, time, and place of the 9 deaths at Broome County Jail. Nobody cared. Over 20 pages of documentation to the commissioner, who refused to investigate it and deemed it hearsay. So with all that said, I think I can speak for all the men, women, and babies who died at the hand of Broome County Jail Sheriff Carter and Chief Zukoski. And I'm disgusted that county leaders want to continue to pour money into the hellhole. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, again, the number to call is 772-7101.
Can we go back to my question?
Once this phone's ringing. Hi, you're here for public comment?
Councilwoman
Okay.
Riley, they're going to read those into the record. They will be read into the record.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. Okay, St. Clair. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, let me put you on speaker. Give me 1 second. This is Maureen DeHulich. She lives at 15 St. Clair Ave in Binghamton. You may begin.
I am begging you, men and women, and I certainly understand that things need to be cut, but right now is not the time to even think about cutting police or Binghamton Fire. These are the men and women that come to you in your time of need. I understand you thinking, well, we're not in a time of need right now. These men and women are the ones that come to you when you least expect it. They put on their badges and they go to work and they don't care who they're going to, and they never know what they're going to. They need training, they need time, and they need patience. I'm not saying that you can't cut different things, but Binghamton Police and Binghamton Fire are not where you should even be thinking about cutting. These are the men and women that are coming to help your families, that are coming to help your kids, that are coming to help your parents. Think about this. I respectfully request that you not cut anything with Binghamton Fire or Binghamton Police. Thank you for the jobs that you are doing. I do appreciate as a Binghamton City taxpayer.
Thank you. All right, so the number again to call is 772-7101.
Grace, while you're waiting for the next phone call, how many letters did you get in the clerk's office?
I believe we have 3 or 4.
All right.
Hi, you're calling for public comment? Okay, please state your full name and full address for the record. Okay, let me put you on speaker. Give me 1 second. This is Casey McGowan and her address is 141 Prospect Ave. You may begin.
Hi, I would like to say that I completely disagree with the last caller. Binghamton already has way more police than we need, and I'm really mortified that we're going to add 2 more police while we're going to fire 50 teacher's aides. I used to be a teacher aide, and when I started, I got absolutely no training, and I got put in a classroom with special needs students, and I felt awful going to work every day and not having the proper training to help the teacher and these students every day. So we're already underfunding the schools and the aides and the teachers and all this stuff while we're constantly pumping more and more money into the police force. So I cannot believe that we want to add 2 more cops right now and take away help from the schools with everything that's going on. It's really deplorable.
Okay, thank you. And the number to call is 772-7101. Hi, you're calling for public comment? Okay, please state your full name and address for the record. Okay, give me 1 second. I will put you on speaker. This is Hannah Jones. Her address is 8 Edward Street. You may begin.
Hi, everyone. Oh, thank you.
Sorry.
I just want to start by saying thank you for giving us the space to speak about the budget. As you know, there have been several forums where the community has called in and expressed their outrage, and I just want to echo that concern. So when I look at our budget and the process of having it approved, my overall concern is transparency. Other cities in New York have begun to create citizen-led committees to scrutinize the budget and ensure equitable distribution of resources. These committees are meant to address real community issues with the budget, particularly housing, youth programs, health services, teachers' aides, and mental health programs. So, but I have not seen the same level of accountability and transparency from our city officials. Thanks to Angela Riley, I was able to find the link for tonight's meeting, but otherwise I didn't see anything from the city actually broadcasting these forums. We need to know how much of our tax dollars are going into inflated budgets like the police department, but we also need to know how much of that money can actually be allocated elsewhere. So we need to make sure that these opportunities for grants are not given continuously to services that do not protect and uplift everyone in the community, not just white folks. It's not just the white community that needs protected, it's everyone. So for instance, youth programs are supposed to be cut around $7,000 this year, and it's unclear why. What areas of the budget can we actually divest from to make this up? So I want to echo that my preferred area to see these cuts come from would be from the police budget. I believe that it should be cut, and most of these funds, particularly the areas that are being inflated this year and increased, should be reappropriated to community programs that help support and protect the most vulnerable among us. So we need summer job programs for our youth. We need public health workers to fight this pandemic, and we need food services in the food deserts of Binghamton. So what am I talking about specifically with the police budget? The police are asking for $115,728 for new equipment. This is a $25,000 increase from last year's budget of $90,656. Apparently, this budget is going to cover a $3,000 miscellaneous item, things like 11 new bulletproof vests and apparently we're getting shoulder mics but no body cams. So this list is concerning to me. The ammunition budget, which is separate from equipment, I learned, is also set to get less. It's going to increase by $6,900 to a total of $81,809. The SWAT team is receiving its own separate budget that's part of that for $12,000 in ammunition just for them. So my question is, this is a lot of bullets. What conflict are we anticipating that we're investing all of this into ammunition and into equipment that presumably is for riot conflict? I've tried to investigate how often we use the SWAT teams, but my full request of the yearly SWAT calls were denied, apparently because I did not have the specific form number that was needed. So this brings me back in my last minute to my overall point, which is transparency. We deserve to have a say in how our tax dollars are spent, and we deserve to know how they're being allocated and that process. However, we cannot properly make these assessments as a community if you, as city officials, do not cooperate with us and work with us to make these changes.
You have 1
We
minute.
actually need to be taking action steps with the budget to address the public health crisis of racism that is prevalent, not just in Binghamton, but throughout the entire U.S. So my final thoughts are, where is the coalition promised by the mayor? How can we trust you all to serve the common good when you continuously mislead the public and drag your feet on reform? How do we know that our voices are going to be heard tonight? Because I think the community has made it loud and clear where we stand, and it is not with reinvesting in the police and sheriff's department. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Again, the number is 772-7101.
You want to go off topic or no?
No.
Okay.
Hi, you're here for public comment? Hello, can you hear me? Okay, please state your full name and address for the record. Okay, give me 1 second. Let me put you on speaker. Okay, this is Anthony Georges. He lives at 11 Franklin Street. You may begin.
Hi, thank you. Just a little background. I've been living in Binghamton now for about 7 years. I lived on the south side, now over kind of the north side, I guess it's considered. I'm originally from New York City. I spent 30 years there and in Boston. I got to witness a lot of large-scale police forces and day-to-day action. When I first moved here, I couldn't believe the amount of police that I saw, probably because I lived on the south side. And I thought that there was a tremendous amount of police presence in a place that seemed a lot less dangerous than all the places I lived in the past. I had started thinking then about how Binghamton had spent its money and thought maybe I moved to the wrong place. The longer I lived here, the more I felt that presence, and I come to find out that Binghamton had spent money on tanks. I don't understand that. I really don't. I also noticed a few years ago that Binghamton was hitting an economic slump since I moved here, not just from what I had heard in the last 10 or 20 years. I see a lot more homeless people. I see people around the community that I know, and even people I don't know. I hear about struggling with day-to-day needs just to get through the day with their family. I see empty buildings all over the place that turned into a lot of useful community resources and other things. Just a little more background, I did own and run a successful international air freight company at JFK for decades, so I do know a little bit about business and finance. I've raised 2 kids to successful adults, so I know a little bit about family life and day-to-day struggles being a single parent. I also know that from my experiences, I'd like to point out that adding money to the police force is not going to help. It's been proven, especially in a place like Binghamton that already has such a strong police force. If that money would be allocated to other things, such as affordable housing, youth centers, after-school programs, or even maybe more funds for the schools so they could get updated books and things to help with COVID, more food banks, community health workers, all this would alleviate so much from the police force if we had a number to call when a family member or a community member has a mental health issue, instead of calling the police, who aren't really trained in mental health duties, to come and show up as armed police officers to handle a mental health situation. I think money should be put into mental health workers to show up, and that would alleviate a lot of work from the police force and things that they don't need to have to work on. things that people are trained to work on can work on. So I think money needs to be allocated towards community things as opposed to the police. If you want to cut the whole police force, that would be fine with me, but I realize you're not going to see that realistically. But more money into the police force is not something that is needed in a city as small as Binghamton, with a police force that has stopped me on the road in my 7 years in Binghamton more times than I did in my 30+ years living in Boston and New York City. I have been stopped and harassed by the police here more times, and that is not an exaggeration. So please consider listening. I don't know how well you're listening or if you're just doing this to placate us, but I think you should take the money and put it into community services and not into the police so they can have more ammunition and more police officers on the street sleeping behind signs waiting for me to speed by. Thank you and have a nice day.
Thank you. Again, the number to call is 772-7101. You're calling for public comment? Okay, please state your full name and address for the record. Give me 1 second, I'm gonna put you on speaker. This is Terry Weathers. She lives at 20 Rexford Street in Binghamton.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. This is, the third week we've done this, these budget meeting public comments. I've got to say, this is, in all my years of being a Binghamton resident, the most that I've ever been involved in any kind of a budget meeting. I think it's the most that you've ever even pretended to care about public comment. And that's a good thing. But a lot of this process, it feels a lot like maybe you're not really listening. I mean, if you are listening, it's quite obvious what the community has been asking for, what the community needs. We've been asking for money to be turned into housing stability, food stability, health care, youth services, education, all the things that build our city into a great place to be, a great place to live and raise families. Because this has been being so out in the open, this being the third time that you're actually listening to community, I think that people are starting to feel a lot like me. I am pleased to be involved in the process, and I am tired of calling you. I am tired of every week calling and saying the same things. We need food, we need housing, we need health care, we need to have our businesses to be built up, especially now in the time that we're in a healthcare pandemic. It's tiring. So please, I urge you, our council people, our council persons, members, city council members, to listen to us and actually do something about this budget. Don't just go ahead and pass it as it is. Make some change. Show us that you're listening. Let us know that you're hearing us. Because arming these police will not protect you from your awoken citizenry. We are awake. We want to be heard. We don't want to be placated. We want to be heard. Thank you. I'm done.
Thank you. Again, the number is 772-7101. Hi, you're calling for public comment? Yes, I can hear you. Please state your full name and address for the record. Okay, what is the address? Okay. And then you said your name is Lindsay. Okay, can you spell that for me? Okay, let me put you on speaker. Okay, this is Lindsay Nutjig, and she lives at 54 Chestnut Street.
Hello. So according to line A3120.54117, you are planning on increasing the Winchester .223 PowerPoint duty ammo by 2 for the 2021 budget at a cost of $107.46 each, or $250 for the $215 for the 2. In addition, you are planning on replacing the aging dog of the police force for $5,000, which is line A3120.54118. Binghamton police definitely do not need to replace their aging dog or the bullets. I have seen the police use their dogs to produce terror against protesters who are practicing their free speech and to profile community members for minor drug offenses. The police also do not need new bullets. Bullets have been used to kill Black people across the country so many times by the police. Each time we do not use our tax money to fund bullets for the police, we make the community safer. Crime in Binghamton does not require bullets to solve. No problem does. Instead, the community needs support and resources to build it up. So instead of funding these forms of terror towards the Binghamton community, we can fund 2 rent vouchers for Binghamton families for a year who are struggling with houselessness, or we can help out our low-income students through tablets for online learning. Each tablet is about $500, so we can fund 5 students to help them succeed. Or we can help feed our community members. Each Vines Farm share is about $600, so we can help out about 10 families struggling with access to fruits and vegetables, just for the cost of these bullets and this aging dog, to replace the aging dog. In addition, the contingency budget, or line A3120, is suggesting that if the city gets aid from the state, the city council or the police force will proceed to hire 8 new police officers. This makes the community very unsafe. Police do not solve problems in the community. They do not see families that are struggling to make ends meet. They do not house the houseless. They do not de-escalate domestic abuse situations. They do not protect people's rights. They protect property, and they protect the whitest people, the richest people, the most able-bodied people, and the people most connected to the police. With the contingency budget, Binghamton is planning on adding about $440,000 to the police budget. Imagine what we could do instead. We can add $950,000 small business grants to Black and minority small business owners to help circulate money in our community. We can create 9 affordable housing units at $50,000 each through the community land trust to house our neighbors. We can create a substance use and harm reduction center at about $300,000 that will assist our loved ones in a journey of recovery from addiction and will be supportive instead of criminalizing addiction as the police do. We can fund about 100 youth summer jobs for low-income students in our community, and so much more. We've done the research for you by surveying random community members from all over the city. 70% of these random community members through the survey said that lack of affordable housing is something that impacted their daily life in Binghamton. 65% said that not enough support for people affected by incarceration impacted their lives or their loved ones' lives. 56% of survey takers said that there is not enough support for Black-owned businesses in the community, and 52% said that the lack of mental health and medical services in the community affected their lives. 44% said abusive landlords, 43% said that lack of access to affordable foods affected their lives, 43% also said that lack of infrastructure affected their lives, 42% of people said that cops in public places affected their lives in a negative way. This shows that cops do not make anything safer. They instill fear, while members of the community are still struggling. Every dollar not spent on funding the police makes the community safer and has the potential to fund resources and support that will make the community stronger.
You have 1 minute.
Years of research and organizing and uprisings throughout the world this summer have shown that people are dissatisfied with the police. They make communities unsafe. City Council should not be preparing the Binghamton Police Force for future years of policing through funding in this budget. You all should be realizing that where we are now as a nation and as a community, and preparing the community for a world without police by funding the people and by funding housing, food, education, and mental health. Thank you.
Thank you. Again, the number is 772-7101. Hi, you're calling for public comment? Okay, please state your full name and address for the record. Can you say your address one more time? Okay, Fort Briar. Okay, let me put you on speaker really quick. This is Lauren Papastratus. Her address is 4 Briar Court. You may begin.
Hi, I would like to just share my opinion that I support the Binghamton Police Department, especially now more than ever in the world that we live in. I think that reading from a pre-scripted written statement is unfair, and I think that everybody in our community should support and protect our police department. Thank you.
Thank you. Again, the number is 772-7101.
And just a clarification, this is public hearing, not public comment. Good job, Grace.
Okay.
Great job.
Hi, you're calling for the public hearing? Okay, please state your full name and address for the record. Okay, give me 1 second. I'm going to put you on speaker. This is Tina Chronopoulos. Her address is 37 Laurel. You may begin.
I'm astonished at the speed with which the 2021 budget is being pushed through. It was published almost a month later compared to last year's, and now someone is practically holding council members and by extension the community hostage because the deadline is the end of this month. During the 4 hearings you've held, there has been palpable irritation at things taking too long or certain council members asking too many questions. Not only that, you've been voting as you've been going, making the public hearing today kind of a fan, since a supermajority is needed to reopen a budget item and allow discussion, which seems unlikely given the Republicans on the council seem mostly disinterested in what the public has to say. May I please remind you that as council members, you are responsible for and responsible to the citizens who elected you as well as those that did not vote for you. So the least you can do is perhaps ask some questions as the budget is being discussed, or show some interest in the proceedings. It really does boggle the mind that the Republicans in particular, usually so keen on being fiscally conservative and careful with money, have distinguished themselves on not really asking any significant questions. I find this particularly astonishing since in my job for the state, I have to be accountable for every cent that I spend, since it's ultimately tax dollars I'm spending. And yet, so few of you can be bothered to ask questions about how tax dollars are going to be spent by our city government. Your job isn't to rubber stamp. Your job is to be inquisitive, to hold those who put the budget together accountable, and to ensure that money is being spent wisely. I can't imagine rolling into my job and telling the finance people that I have no receipt or documentation for how I spent $1,500, let alone not being willing or able to be more specific how I'm going to spend $100,000 on diversity training. Can you imagine? Of course not. And yet you are absolutely willing to let Chief the Council give you some wishy-washy baloney about not having any details to hand. For those in the room who like numbers, I did a bit of digging around in historic budgets and discovered the following. In 1970, 50 years ago, the population of Binghamton was 64,000 people. The number of police officers, including higher ranks, was 145. Today, the population of Binghamton is about 40,000 people, 45,000 people, a 30% drop from 1970. Yet the number of police officer positions, including higher ranks, is currently 140, and you're proposing to raise it to 142 for next year. In other words, the number of people living in the city has fallen drastically, but the number of police officers has remained steady. Why is that? You might say that Binghamton is poorer today than it was 50 years ago. However, studies show that the police are probably the least qualified people to deal with problems created by poverty. the number is almost the same today as it was in 1970 is because perhaps the police union likely has a firm grip on the mayor and others working in city government, and because there is a lack of vision and determination in this council for how to spend tax dollars in a way that is efficient. Previous administrations have managed to reduce the number of police officer positions because I know that because I've looked at the budget, so I know it can be done. I ask you to keep the 8 vacant positions vacant. Finally, I find it very interesting to observe how certain council members react, either when they are being held accountable by the public, or even when one of their own is asking a question. Last Tuesday, it was really embarrassing to witness 2 of you lose your cool when Councilwoman Friedman referred to the AR-15 handgun as military-grade equipment. Rather than either letting it go or perhaps saying that you disagree with this characterization, you threw her under the bus. As I mentioned before, the police is a racist institution in a racist country, and this is irrelevant. If you don't know this or aren't willing to accept this, I'm not surprised. Since Americans are the most thoroughly and passively indoctrinated people on earth. You know next to nothing about your own history or the histories of other nations or the histories of the various social movements that have risen and fallen in the past. What you have been trained not to know is that you enjoy far fewer freedoms and suffer under a more centralized state than Europeans. Your willingness to let yourself be taxed and yet accept inadequate government services and an effective police that serves only rich white people is astounding. I have come face to face with police and military here when I was part of a peaceful protest. A group of people consisting of families with children.
You have 1 minute.
And sick folks. You do not need police and militarized riots here in a city of 45,000 inhabitants. Truly, the last thing we need is to spend $15,000 on police protective gear, which is different from bulletproof vests. So these cops can play soldier against people who are waving homemade signs made out of tape and paper on Main Street. And you know, one of you mentioned last week's meeting that it was really intimidating for people to phone in because, I don't know, somebody is calling somebody a name. What's intimidating is coming face to face with people and riot here in the streets when all I'm doing is exercising my right to protest. I really do wish you actually meant it when you say liberty and justice for all at the beginning of your meetings, rather than just for those who look like you. I wish also that you would listen to what we are telling you. Thank you.
Thank you. Again, the number to call is 772-7101. Hi, you're calling for the public hearing? Okay, please state your first name, your full name and your address. You said 8? Okay. Give me 1 second and I will put you on speaker. This is John Solak. His address is 8 Lathrop Ave.
Hello. I go by the city charter. That's what you should go by. This process is not mysterious, and it's not unfair. It's the mayor's budget. There are budget lines. To my knowledge, the city council might be able to move and increase a budget line from another budget line, but the city council cannot, within the mayor's budget, within this budget, create new budget lines. It cannot create its own wish list and then take from the allocations that the mayor makes and put it in its own budget line. Now, watching the budget hearing a couple of nights ago, I saw that Ken Frank took a very active role. And again, we're going by the city charter. Corporation Counsel's Office has defined functions. And I like Ken Frank. But I think that Ken Frank has become the de facto mayor of the city of Binghamton. I've said that before. Now, if we want a city manager form of government, then we can have a city manager form of government. But I think that Ken Frank was not confined to legal matters. He was taking an active role in the budget, which is not his responsibility. He was acting as the executive. And I think he does act as the executive. And I think that's, you get that situation when you have a mayor that offloads responsibility for the decisions that he makes. Now, as far as the police go, we need all the police we can get. It's not the 45,000, not the number of people. It's the ill will and intent that they harbor. You can put people in public housing that are polite, kind, educated, well-spoken, have good manners, and you will have no problem. Likewise, you can take people of ill will, ill-mannered, ill-educated, disrespectful, and put them in a mansion, and it won't make any difference. People have to be accountable for their own behavior. And in this city, we have poorly behaved people. Now, as far as people talking about various social problems and asking the city council to solve them or mitigate them, again, we have a misunderstanding or a non-educated viewpoint of what city government is. Again, you go by the city charter. Now, if they're worried about taking care of the indigent, then they should be directing their efforts to the state officials, because in the state constitution, it says that the state will take care of the indigents. That's a state matter. I don't see these people over at Lepardo's office. That's where the problem is. Law enforcement is a local issue if you have an established police force. If you don't have an established police force in a municipality, or do away with it, then that responsibility goes to the sheriff and the state police. But you always will have law enforcement.
You have 1 minute.
So what I suggest these know-it-alls do is to bone up on the city charter and to go and take their concerns, not to the local level, which does not have jurisdiction or oversight in these matters, and put it up top to where it belongs. Go to Andrew Cuomo, go to the state legislature and make your complaints there. And I support the local police now and forever. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Again, the number to call for the public hearing is 772-7101. How you're calling for the public hearing? Okay, can you spell your last name for me? Okay, and then you said 20 Rexford. Okay, let me put you on speaker. Calling is Derek Goodinson. His address is 20 Rexford Street. You may begin.
Okay, first of all, I'm gonna address the last caller about being educated. This is Broome County. We deal with Broome County budget in Broome County. So just get educated about who you contact to deal with Broome County. You don't contact the governor of New York. City of Binghamton. Sorry, City of Binghamton, not Broome County, but it is a local budget. You discussed that with local representatives. I just want to say it's astonishing to me and how many others things are a better idea than police. Off the top of my head, like, old ladies don't need people to make sure people aren't stealing their pearls from their homes. They need carpenters to fix their doors and their floors. Like, we don't need to pay armed guards to run around and penalize people for breaking the law. We need actual productive members of society contributing to the communities around them. It matters so little to me that people in legislative positions claim our most important need is having a force of armed guards ready to dehumanize folks who are taking food from mega corporations. You spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to pay to keep food away from the destitute and the poor. Use our money to pay for food. Make sure people can have food. then start worrying about paying for bullets and stuff like that. We don't need bullets. We don't need to spend our taxpayer dollars on bullets. Vast amount of taxpayer dollars are wasted on bullets, tear gas, riot armor, armored vehicles, ballistic weapons, tasers, chemical weapons. Why are we pretending that arming some of the most mediocre and judgment-impaired members of our community beyond comprehension, demanding they receive impunity and unquestioned adoration is in my best interest? We want plumbing that's up to code, functioning roofs, tangible reciprocity of the value that we put into this community that we have built. Police have always had a history of being anti-union, authoritarian interests in this country. The peace they create through coercion is a facade that both fascists and those who exploit others in a parasitic manner benefit from perpetuating. This narrative does not benefit those who they insist perpetuated. Who benefits from their protection? Victims of violent crimes at best are offered revenge. Victims of arson, their property isn't saved by police. Firefighters do that. And if their property isn't saved, they're offered revenge by police. That's not a service. They're an exploitive force, and funding it at my expense, that's not a valid use of taxpayer dollars. Redo your budget. You're getting feedback on it. Draw up some real numbers. Put it into food. Put it into affordable shelter. Put it into unions.
You have
Like
1 minute.
Not police force. Give us choices. Don't just sit there in your ivory tower and come down with your money claims about how you've crunched all the numbers, and the best solution you can come up with is to put more armed guards on the corner, make more people feel unsafe in their own homes. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Again, the number to call is 772-7101 for the public hearing. Hi, you're calling for the public hearing? Okay, please state your full name and address for the record. Okay, and your address? Okay, let me put you on speaker. Calling is Michael Vasquez. His address is 45 North Street. You may begin.
Thank you. It's interesting listening to several of the calls that have been coming through today. And I want to take a step back because I know we were speaking about this before. It's a very important issue to know what's going on in our budgets. Now, so far I've been hearing a lot of things like, well, the size of the city has decreased in the number of population, but the number of police have increased. And it's a true statement. At the same time, the needs of the area have also increased. We've had, for lack of better wording, less community within our city than we had in the past. That's something that's true throughout all of America because we have various political organizations that have very specific goals and they try to separate us to do that. So that's a concern, and that's something that's important to remember because what we're hearing people speak about in defunding the police, which means disbanding some amount of those police, is they're asking for a social experiment. That's not what city council is for. That's not what the government is for. That may be great for a university. It may be great for a theoretical report, but that's not government. The number one purpose and the main purpose of all government at every level in our nation is to protect the people, first and foremost. And we do that at the local level with our police, and they have done so effectively. Now, one of the questions we should be asking about this is, do our police do the job we have assigned to them well? The answer in our community is yes. You know, if you're looking at Portland, LA, Seattle, like these individuals seem to be transporting their emotions from those other areas to here, that doesn't work. Our police do their job well. They have been effective, and we do need them. Now, we look at this social experiment, and if we were to take this seriously, and we were to try and put that on our public, well, what should we expect? And this is important for City Council, for everyone to remember. We have seen this experiment. I've mentioned it before. We have seen the result of that experiment, most notably in Minnesota, in Minneapolis, where we've seen that in taking away just 10% of the police force, the people have now come back to those very same members of City Council and very publicly demanded that they get those police officers back. The problem is damage that's done in between. People will say, well, no, Mike, you just don't understand. And I look at our region. Just a week ago, we saw violence in Ithaca because two groups of individuals did not agree with each other. We see that in Rochester. We see that in New York City. Why would we want to take a social experiment that has failed and inflict that on our public? Are we spending money on police? Absolutely. And they are doing the job that they should be doing with those funds. Social experiments are for the university. And funding for a lot of those in need, that's higher level government. That's not the city. That's a question for the state. That's for our representatives like Donald Lapardo. That's for our county like Jason Garnar, which are more appropriate sources for that. Mm-hmm. So if we're going to really look at this, let's really look at what we're asking for. Are we asking for our people to take a social experiment that will damage us possibly irreparably? Or are we really looking to do what government is meant to do, protect us? My answer is we do what government is meant to do, that you are doing that. We continue to fund our police, and we look for social experiments from our university, which luckily for us is right here. It seems to be the most logical thing. I thank you.
Thank you. Again, the number for public hearing is 772-7101. Hi, you're calling for the public hearing? Okay, please state your full name and address. Give me 1 second, I will put you on speaker. This is Jackie Wood. Her address is 4 Roosevelt Ave. You may begin.
All right, no one else knows what's going on in the jail, so that's something that we need more police to put more people in the jail. They suffer in there terribly. I go there for 2 organizations, well, I did for COVID, to visit them. They do not get their medication. That's one thing he did not say. My brother's in there 13 days. They killed him. They did no medical treatment for the cerebral brain tumor. So, yeah, let's not get any more police to put more people in there to die, please. And I don't trust the police myself. My grandson has autism, and I would let him beat me up before I'd ever call the police on him. At least he's alive to do it again. So many of the police are out there trigger happy with mental illness, instead of using the money for the police to do that stuff with, how about we build up more mental health centers that we need drastically? With the money that you want to do for the police, you could put up at least 3 to 4 buildings and hire more mental health workers that we need severely in this community. And you also need to do something for substance use disorder, another a clinic for them as well. Then you won't have people going in and out of jail. They will have a resource. Oh, wait a minute. That's right. The jail gets so much money per bed. They don't want to do that. That's all I got to say. Put the money in the community, please.
Thank you. Again, the number is 772-7101. Hi, you're calling for the public hearing? Hi. Hi, can you hear me? Okay, what is your name, full name and address? Okay. You're welcome. Let me put you on speaker before, so everybody can hear you, okay? Yes, but I'm gonna put you on speaker so that all of council can hear you. Okay. I could not catch the name, it kept breaking up. His address is 106.5 Park Street. You may begin. Hello?
Coming through?
Yes, we can hear you.
Honest, my God. Hello?
Yes, you may begin.
Okay, yeah, I'm here downtown with Justice and Unity for the Volunteers. We're simply asking for some backbone, some integrity, some compassion, and some foresight in these budget-making processes. Help me, Rhonda, because in the situation room, it's a vaunted home of the square deal. The square deal for whom? You really get a square deal? You're not white or upper caste? Is a square deal anything more than a desiccated husk? If you're disabled or queer, or don't come from generational wealth, and have to work multiple jobs during a pandemic in order to barely prop up a livelihood? Was this square deal ever really meant for anyone, for rich white citizens of the power of their city? This region was founded on a populace of imperial nouveau riche, priding themselves on ostentatious displays of wealth and flashy shows of property porn. This frontiersman ideology of divine rights to stolen land, colonizers' pride, to the poisonous thing Zen, that still permeates this region to this day. Maybe it always will. Our topography contributes to this, I think. The kinds of peripheral blindness which plague our environment with extreme classism, racism, ableism, transphobia, homophobia, and ageism in this area. We are separated by rivers and gulches and creeks, rugged cliffs and valleys. We become easily insulated from each other's needs, zeroed in on our own immediate day-to-day world. But it definitely has over time carved out a local caste system that continues deepening today, making us so entrenched. It is hard to see out over the top of these systems. A more just, inclusive community. All we are trying to do is imagine take practical steps to enact a fairer and more morally sound distribution of resources. The disaggregation of the citizenry creates a framework where there is no incentive for folks to look out for them outside themselves. So our communities are not feeling seen, heard, or advocated for. There are a lot of people hurting and clearly discernible hierarchy around who has access to what, where, when, and how. Not all CDs and carousels and golf and rolling splendor, square deals for everyone out here. I know there are a lot of back to blue characters out there in our community whose delicate sensibilities are easily offended by the suggestion of defunding the police. This has become a kind of buzzword phraseology that's been widely used. I don't personally have a problem with it, but it always makes all the pro-copish types clutch their pearls. even though they seem to think it's perfectly fine to defund other social services, public health, park services, youth programs, food subsidies, the list goes on. Why is it always okay to defund these essential programs, but never okay to defund policing? There's this long-standing automatic valorization of police and police culture. People watch the endless array of police procedural dramas on TV, further conditioning themselves to believe that armed response is always appropriate, no matter the context of the incident. There is nothing radical or drastic about this as a plea for reason. With no upsurge in crime, there's no need to be spraying more money at policing and incarceration. Can't we tighten the valve just a little so it's not a full-on gush of funds towards further beefing it all up? It's okay to feel threatened by change. All I can ask is that you try to be more open to it, to progress.
You have 1 minute.
A reconfiguration of resources is desperately called for to address the needs of everyone in our community, according to the severity of need. A reallocation of resources, a reallotment, a sanity ballot, a redistribution of power and wealth, whatever you want to call it, economic and environmental justice for all, and social decency and structural compassion. These status quos we have in place use not to make this word crush people and then penalize them for not being able to stand up under the weight. I think Binghamton is better than this. I think we can be better than this. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Again, the number is 772-7101. Hi, you're calling for the public hearing? Okay, please state your full name and address for the record. Oh, hi, how are you? Okay, all right, let me put you on speaker, and then you can begin. Give me 1 second. This is Terry Renia. Her address is 5 Chapin Street. You may begin.
Thank you. You're all hearing from a lot of people who are way more well-spoken regarding the police portion of this budget, so I don't want to dwell on that too much, except I do want to point a couple things out, and that is that public safety is really among the largest parts of this budget that you've been looking at. So obviously that would be where most of the comment would be. And the other thing that I want to say, which is pretty obvious, is that public sentiment about policing is very important and it's a very hot topic, not just nationally, but locally, as you've heard. And the folks that you've heard from have been very precise and very detailed in their suggestions. And in the past, no one has said anything tonight, but in the past, the dismissive and argumentative attitude that so many on this council have exhibited to folks as they've tried to make their point has been tone deaf at best, and it's been outright racist at its worst. If you look at the budget in front of you, you have $500,283 in contingency for the police department, over $500,000 for 8 new police positions and a clerk. Frankly, I could reimagine a lot of things that we could do with that money to change a lot about how our community is now. And many of the topics that folks are talking about, youth programming, quality housing, access to food, public health. If we are addressing all of these things, I would suggest, and mental health issues, and if we are working as a city to address all of these things, I would suggest that perhaps our police budget wouldn't have to be quite so high. Over the last 4 to 6 years, there has been an increase in maybe the last 6 or 7 years, an increase in the number of police officers on the Binghamton Police Department. There has been no corresponding reduction in crime in the city. And I think that that in itself is a demonstration that we need to do things differently. By contrast, looking at the contingency in this budget, you also have 4 firefighter positions sitting in contingency. I listened to the budget hearing, and there was a lot of fast talking about potential grants and things that could be done to restore these 4 positions. But it also seemed like there were several other open positions as well. And I would argue that reducing the fire department while continuing to increase the police department, is not really looking at public safety in a very comprehensive way. In the last decade or so, we've seen a few devastating fires, which could have resulted in horrific losses to our whole downtown, were it not for our professional fire department. And our building stock is certainly not getting any younger. But speaking of the contingency, I want to say that I appreciate that this administration tried to plan in a time that is nearly impossible to plan. And they put positions into contingency in anticipation of not receiving state and federal aid. But that contingency really doesn't make a difference in this budget if you pass it as it is, because it's all still there. All that funding is still there. And I understand the premise that if the aid doesn't come through, then you'll know where to cut. And I understand that there's got to be some really tough decisions. And I assume that the administration worked really hard and struggled with the positions and various other things that they put into the contingency. And I assume that it's well thought out. But I also assume that they wouldn't have made those decisions.
You have 1 minute.
If there wasn't a plan of how to survive without those positions. Something has to be done. Something has to give. We are in unprecedented times. All of us as business people and property owners and residents have had to change everything about how we operate on a daily basis, how we run our businesses, how we run our homes. The city has to do the same. As we continue in this pandemic, we will continue to see more and more folks struggling with housing, with mental health issues, with public health issues, with access to food. And this council has an opportunity to work with the administration. John Solak is right. This is the mayor's budget. But if it were more transparent between the administration and the council, perhaps we could be a little more creative in how we address these things. I would urge city council to look at where you can make some cuts and look at where you can make some changes. Reach out to the administration. See if just once they'll work with you. Thank you.
Thank you. Again, the number is 772-7101. Hi, you're calling for the public hearing? Okay, please state your full name and address for the record. Okay, let me put you on speaker. Give me 1 second. This is Mary Clark. Her address is 24 Laurel Ave.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'm glad you're not cutting us off this week, so that's a good sign. Anyways, because I think it's an opportunity that we should afford our citizens to be able to speak. That's what I'm planning to do tonight in regard to the budget. I think there's a couple items that I see on the contingency page. We have 8 officers to be X'd out if we don't have money coming in from the feds or the state. I think we should save ourselves that money because that's a plan already planned for a contingency, and we should remove those 8 positions, saving us some, I believe it's $440, almost $500,000. In addition, we have the line item that adds 2 probationary cops to a tune of another about $70,000. So combined, we have over $500,000, over $500,000 that we could use to spend in our community. I think a previous caller really pointed out clearly how back, I believe in 1970, we had a population of 66,000 people. Now we have a population of about 44,000 people, and we virtually have the same amount of officers, or short about 2. But if we have a diminishing population, we do not need an increasing police force, and that's what we've seen. So I think eliminating those 8 contingency positions, the 2 additional positions that we're getting to a reasonable amount of money that can be spent on other needs in our community. Because one of the things that we're really seeing, and as this pandemic continues, is we're on the precipice of an incredible housing crisis. You know, the moratoriums on housing have stayed, the evictions, but those moratoriums are running out, and eviction court has opened up, and we're estimating to see about 500 plus families evicted from their homes starting into the dead of winter and the holiday time. And we have no contingency for what we're going to do with those folks. And one of the biggest things that we see in Broome County Jail, or what we've seen a lot of, is people who get charged with burglary because they are homeless and squatting in homes and things of that nature. Are we going to reconstitute and rehouse people in the Broome County Jail, which would cost us taxpayers even more money because it will increase cost at the Broome County Jail? We're addressing the problem just ridiculously. We always say, oh, don't throw money at something, but our answer is always, let's get more cops and more things. And it's a simple solution. Oh, it's easy to add to a budget, add more cops, do all that. But that doesn't deal with the issues that are out here in our community. We are criminalizing homelessness. We are criminalizing mental health issues. We are criminalizing people with substance use disorders. We are criminalizing our population that needs care, needs treatment, needs access to resources, and no one thinks about doing that. And somehow you're some scourge, like we're the scourge of the community, suggesting that we need less cops. We are like actually the sanity of the community, suggesting that we need more services and we need to stop criminalizing people. And the more cops we get, the more criminals we create out of needs.
You have 1 minute.
And issues in our community. And that's why I'm suggesting that you zero out those 8 positions. Don't wait for the contingency budget. Eliminate those 2 additional costs, and let's reinvest this money into a housing line where we can stave off, any kind of, housing crises. Let's deal with mental health and substance use disorder. That money of the $500,000 could go a long way to provide the services that we need and eliminate criminalizing our community for just having issues that aren't being addressed. And I think you need to start looking at this as a city council and not think all the answers are police. There are a lot of communities and a lot of studies that show we are a lot safer and healthier as a community by investing
Your
in
time is up.
service for people.
Okay, again, the number is 772-7101. Are you calling for the public hearing? Okay, please state your full name and full address. Okay, and then your address. Okay, let me put you on speaker. Give me 1 second. This is Andrew Pragus. He lives at 25 Handel Street. You may begin.
Hello?
Hello, can you hear us?
Yeah, sorry, it just broke up for a second.
Oh, no, you're fine. All right, go ahead when you're ready.
Thank you. For the past several months, a group of us have been going around and talking to people. We've been having a conversation since the beginning of the year about policing in Binghamton. We're here today, and we help organize people to come out and speak about defunding the police, reallocating resources from a bloated police budget to other critical services that we need here in Binghamton, because 2,000 people march in the city of Binghamton in May. Another 500 people showed up at Cherry Lindsay Park and marched to the police station, demanding more police accountability, fewer police, and to change the structurally racist system that we have here in Binghamton. And then we had 400 or 500 people showed up at Rec Park, and we had these great political debates. We carried that on by having meetings all across town, and now we're trying to bring what we've heard, what we've learned, when we've talked to people, to the city council through things like this budget hearing. That's why we're here. The people, when we speak to people, they don't think that police make them safer. They don't think that prisons make people better. In fact, they have ample evidence to the contrary. You know, I hear in the city of Binghamton is the poorest city in upstate New York. A previous caller suggested that getting rid of police officers was a social experiment. Well, it's a task in magical thinking to believe that police officers will solve poverty, will remove us from that ignoble distinction of being the poorest city in Binghamton. We do not need more police officers. We need many fewer. We need to stop criminalizing homelessness. We need to stop criminalizing mental health problems and substance use disorders. The sheriff has said any number of times that 80% of the people in the Broome County Jail have mental health problems or substance use problems. Why? In what world do police solve these problems? And indeed, when we don't even have basic and necessary services. We're in a housing crisis, and it's just going to get worse. I deliver food to a food bank, and the line grows by the week. We need to invest in our community. We don't need to invest in more door knockers for the mayor, because we know that's a huge reason why the mayor supports such things. But also, we need to think fundamentally differently as a community about what safety looks like and means. Police officers do not make us safe. They respond to crime, respond to calls, and rarely do they help that situation out. We need people that can help people solve domestic violence issues, that can keep people safe. Police don't do that. In fact, people are reluctant to call the police if they are on probation or have been victimized by police in the past. They're afraid of their family members going to jail, if they have a little bit of weed in the house or whatever. Using police to solve every single problem actually prevents us from keeping many people safe. There are many models from around the country about how we can do this differently. We can have mental health that's disconnected from the police respond to so many calls. Unfortunately, a housemate of mine committed suicide some time ago. 7 police officers showed up to my house and were there for 4 hours. Why? Did they need to do that? I go down and sit at the park, down at Recreation Park. Never is there not one police officer in my field of vision. Why? Police do not need to perform these sorts of functions. We can find other ways, better ways, and healthier ways to do it. Police do not keep us safe. But what does keep people safe, and this is demonstrated by ample evidence, is
your time is up.
Okay.
Thank you. Again, the number to call is 772-7101.
Grace, this is Sharon. If you want to take a second, read one of those comment letters in. If someone calls, you can just put them on hold.
Okay. All right, so this is, let me just move a little bit. Okay, this is a letter from Julia Mahar. Her address is 10 Duffy Court, Binghamton, New York. Dear Mayor David, council members, and all present. I'm concerned that our budget is focused on things that will not benefit Binghamton. While on the surface, more officers look like a good idea, our crime rates don't reflect a need for that. What we do need is affordable, accessible housing for the people that want to start a career in Binghamton and want to retire here. We have seen an increase in unhoused individuals and families over the past few years, despite Mayor David's commitment to eliminating veteran homelessness in the city. Where is the same commitment to all people living without shelter? The funds can enforce existing codes and provide security deposit grants to qualified people and get more residents off the street this winter. Please consider this. Best regards, Julia Mahar. This is a letter from Victoria Delaney. Her address is 10 Riverside Drive. It is my understanding that Sheriff Harder is looking to hire 2 more police officers. I individually and as a member of Justice and Unity for the Southern Tier, DAROC, Citizen Action, and others believe these funds should be better spent in the interests of the community. Crime is down. The jail has at least 30% reduction in occupants, while the community is suffering from lack of services which will be further cut due to COVID-19. The jail budget is bloated. It is 52% of the entire tax levy. We propose a reinvestment in the community, not the police. A series of events we held at parks around the city so the community could voice their concerns. Divest from county policing, reinvest in community safety. Trim the sheriff's administration and patrol budget by 25%. Relieve sheriffs from responding to nonviolent substance abuse and mental health crises, trim personnel by 15%. Stop excessive overtime. Stop the regular $250,000 for new vehicles every year. Stop the $700,000 funding for a new garage. Stop funding police and schools. In the interest of limited time and space, here I will move on to reinvestments. Invest the $2.4 million year savings in community health and peace programs, counselors and health specialists in schools and youth programs, assistance for those coming home from jails and prisons, community health and de-escalation intervention teams, community-based health treatment centers. Yes. And then the next one we have is from Emily Blakely. Her address is 13 Pleasant Ave. My name is Emily Blakely. I live on the north side of Binghamton, and I have currently a PhD student at Binghamton University. These are my comments on the budget. Hi, you're calling for the public hearing? Okay, I'm gonna put you on hold while we read this letter. Okay, my name is Emily Blakely. I live on the north side of Binghamton. I have currently a PhD student at Binghamton University. These are my comments on the budget. When people hear the words defund or divest from policing, it is understandable that they push back. We currently reside in a society that has taught us that police equals safety and that without police there is no safety. But what this community and many communities across the United States are proposing is isn't to eliminate safety. We are proposing that there are alternatives towards safety. When you consider it, police don't prevent crime, they respond to crime that has already occurred. What if we could eliminate crime in the first place? That's what we're proposing. By uplifting and supporting our community, we can achieve safety for all our residents, including those who are marginalized, victimized, and at the bottom of the societal totem pole. Would you prefer that the homeless population is arrested, punished, and removed from our view, or would you prefer that homeless are housed, safe, and happy? Would you rather see immediate and strict punishment for those who steal for food, or would you rather people can eat and feed their families without having to resort to crime? Would you rather those struggling with drug addiction are removed from the view arrested, or would you rather live in a community where you can seek help and support for drug use before it becomes a problem? This is what we are proposing as an alternative to more policing and more cops. Housing that is safe, affordable, and accessible. Grants that support Black and minority-owned businesses to enrich individual lives as well as our community. Food for a community that is easy to access and can support those who cannot afford to feed their families through community gardens, co-ops, more grocery stores, supplying fresh produce. Increasing support staff and programs to help those struggling with drug use and addiction. Safe places where people can seek treatment on their own accord and environments that do not stigmatize and criminalize them. Increasing mental health counselors, reducing stigma around seeking help and making help available. accessible, and affordable so people no longer have to struggle in silence. Youth programs for our children. Treat our children as a potential filled youth they are instead of criminalizing them and waiting for them to fail. Give them empowering and enriching things to do with their time so that they can support their minds, their bodies, and their families. Think about the community that you want to live in for the future, and think about whether the fights you're fighting are going to lead to that type of future, or are you just fighting for the status quo because it is comfortable. Allow yourselves to envision the world that you want your children, your friends, and families, children to grow up in, and allow yourself to realize that it is a future you can fight for and that your community has your back. Okay. And then we just have one more, but I have someone on hold right now, so I will let him speak.
Thank you, Grace.
Okay, I apologize for that. Can you just give me your full name and your address? Okay. I put you on speaker. This is Tomas Casada. His address is 68 Pine Street. You may begin.
All right. I'm just calling in to get the attention of management and the city council just to express how I feel about police continuing to get more funding. The police are heavily funded here in Binghamton, and I think it's kind of silly to hear that the police keep on asking for more and more funds. And I really think there needs to be more attention paid and more funds going towards education. The drug epidemic here in Binghamton. Crime rates are getting lower and lower, and I think we're doing a good job at combating that. And we need to work more on Binghamton's infrastructure, education. A lot of the homelessness around Binghamton, I think those need more attention, especially now. And yeah, that's my spiel.
Thank you. Okay. I will start this next letter. So this is from Sarah Jerk. Her address is 557 Shenango Street. My name is Sarah Jerk, and I live on the north side of Binghamton at 557 Shenango Street. Before I begin, I was literally dialing the phone to offer comments last Wednesday during the public comment section of the city council meeting when Councilman Scanlon ended a public comment abruptly. I had tried a few times earlier during the session, but had been beaten to the punch by others. Scanlon made the choice to end comments because some earlier commenters were angry and expressing that anger towards individual members of council. I want to note that other callers who regularly dial in to city council public comment sections express alarming amounts of hate toward members of the community, and they are allowed to continue doing this weekly without censor. The noticeable difference in Councilman Scanlon's response to a few who were critical of the council as opposed to his response to the blatantly racist, sometimes alarmingly violent callers who target your constituents appall me. More personally disappointing is the fact that I'm attending to responsibilities at work tonight, and thus I am now unable to make the comments with my own voice, even though I cleared my busy schedule to be present last week. I'm a professor at Binghamton University, and as a person of faith, I live on the north side. And my husband and I absolutely love our neighborhood because of the diversity. The rich diversity includes people of many different colors, political inclinations, and social classes. I like to call it the you do you neighborhood. It is a rare thing in our divided country, and I treasure my community. I also see the police a lot. They probably come by my street. Hi, you're calling for the public hearing? Give me 1 second. I'm reading a letter right now. I then will put you on, get your full name and address, and put you on speaker so you can address all of council. Okay, give me a couple more minutes. Okay. I also see the police a lot. They probably come to my street every day. I have seen people respond admirably to violent assaults across the street, deal sensitively with mentally ill neighbors who are acting out in violence to hallucinations, and attend warmly to older folks who have health needs and do not have enough at-home support. I have also seen police speed dangerously without lights or sirens through my neighborhood, which is a chock full of families. I have seen them blatantly tell people that crime problems will not improve, and I've seen them escalate situations unnecessarily because of overly tough approaches. The problem of over-policing in the United States is complicated, and I see those complications emerging every day in my neighborhood. I acknowledge that. That said, the problems of over-policing are real, and they immensely impact the lives of most vulnerable citizens. The city council does not have any representation of the kinds of working class people who populate my neighborhood. There are few council people consistently work for the needs of the underprivileged. Despite those efforts, this budget has neither the interests of racial minorities at heart nor an acknowledgement of the mountains of research that shows how over-policing cripples communities like mine. Last Wednesday, other callers were doing a fantastic job laying out the reasons why our budget should reflect a different value system that can truly support all of Binghamton's residents. I cannot add any more to their wonderful contributions. Instead, I appeal to you to recognize that the approach of Mayor David and the council, should this budget pass as is, contributes to economic, social, and racial disparities. My Binghamton is a wonderful, rare place, and we can do better by all its residents by embracing different approaches that have worked elsewhere. Okay, can you please state your full name and address for the record? Hello? Can you hear me? Okay, they were not there anymore. Those are all the letters I received.
That's wonderful. And thank you so much for doing a tremendous job at organizing. Why don't you read that number one more time?
Okay, sorry about that. The number is 772-7101. Hi, you're calling for the public hearing? Okay, no, you're fine. Okay, so can you just state your full name and your address for the record? Okay, what is, you have to, yeah, we have to have everybody give their address. Okay, let me put you on hold really quick. Sorry, let me put you on speaker really quick. This is Orlando Rosario. His address is 68 Pine Street. You may begin.
Yeah, I just think that a lot of the budgeting is just going into the police, and I think we need to contribute it more into the community. Just there's so much unnecessary things being bought there at that time where it's just like it should be bought more and brought more into the community. That's all I had to add.
Okay, thank you. Hi, you're calling for the public hearing? So we came up here at 5 o'clock. So we haven't checked that folder since. I have no access to that up here, but this is for the public hearing right now. I understand that we don't have access to that email up here. We can read that into the next business meeting. I don't have access to that folder right now. If it was sent at 5, we don't check that after that because our meeting started at 5:15 and we have to set everything up. So I have to, we can, where this is for the public hearing, we can discuss this after for that. So,
Grace, just put them on speaker.
Okay, sorry.
Or what was the caller saying so that other members of council?
It was Tina Chronopoulos. One of her friends sent a letter in after 5 o'clock. The meeting started at 5:15 and we don't have access to that folder other than on our computers downstairs.
After this meeting, it can be circulated to council. I believe council intends to hold this over and vote on it on Thursday.
Yes, that is correct.
Grace, let's do a last call with that number.
Okay, the number is 772-7101. How are you calling for the public hearing? Okay, please state your full name and address for the record. Give me, I just had to put you on speaker. Just give me 1 second. So all council can hear you. This is Tarek Abdelzam. His address is 17 Tremont. You may begin.
So most of the council members are homeowners, and so I'd like to ask you a question as you develop, your personal budget. If you had some water leak in your house, imagine how crazy it would be to then spend your limited income on another security bolt on your door. Or let's say your child got, maybe his eye got scratched or something playing with some kids out in the neighborhood. Clearly needed to go to the doctors, but you said, you know what? I'm going to add a ring phone or whatever those ring cameras are just to increase the surveillance and security of the house. Or your car breaks down. And again, you have limited monthly incomes, but you say, you know what? I'm going to add motion detector lights around my house. Nobody would do that. No responsible parent would do that. You establish priorities and you direct your monthly budgets and your funds to ensure the health, safety, security, and vitality of your entire family. Crises that come up, you address them. Right now in our community, as many communities all across this country, we have crises that are going unmet. We have an affordable housing crisis that is going unmet. Now, you and your close network of friends may not be facing housing insecurity, but you should realize then that where are all those other people, considering about 40% of Binghamton residents and renters are cost burden for housing? Clearly, there's a crisis. We have a mental health crisis in this community. We have an addiction crisis in this community. We have a crisis around systemic racism in this community. We have poverty. We have children going to bed hungry. Nobody even talks about these issues. And yet we continue to drive more and more investments in dollars towards policing, which is just insane. Again, go back to the analogy of you as a parent in your home needing to address and balance multiple priorities. When crises emerge, you shift your funding and your priorities, and you protect the health, security, comfort, and vitality of your entire family. So I'd just like to repeat what I suggested last time, that I think the council should reject the two COPS grants because it may lock you into the same number of police officers that are currently funded. And since we have been going months with 8 vacancies in the police department, no one on council has been receiving a number of calls about this, crime crisis in the city. Nobody said anything, which means everything's just fine. So rather than keeping those 8 vacant positions in contingency, eliminate them. And you'll have about $700,000 to deploy to these other crises in the community that are not being addressed by this budget. You have a responsibility to attend to everyone in your house as a parent, and as legislators, you have a responsibility to attend to the needs of every member of this community. Right now, this budget fails to meet that awesome responsibility, and I encourage you all to listen closely to everything that's been shared over the last few weeks from community members. The current budget and the current approach is not serving everyone's needs, and you need to do a better job in directing our limited resources for the overall health, security, comfort, vitality of our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, you're calling for the public hearing? Hello? No one was on the other end of that.
All right, Grace, let's wrap up the public hearing on the budget.
Okay.
It's a
Go
pro
motion.
break, just ignore.
You need a motion
I'll
to close.
I'll take a motion to close the public hearing on the budget for the 2021 budget, please.
Motion.
Need a second, please?
Second.
All right. The public hearing is officially closed.
Let's do a voice vote on that.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Anyone opposed?
Aye. Opposed.
I,
You're
Angela
opposed.
Riley.
Council Riley, please say that again.
You know what? We're going to have issues.
Anybody make out Councilwoman Riley?
Well, I can't make her out, but why are we closing it?
Because the phone stopped ringing. And by the way, if anybody's out there listening, you're certainly welcome to submit whatever you want to say in writing to the clerk's office. I'll have Grace give out the email address, and you're certainly welcome. If you miss this, you're certainly welcome to submit that, and they'll be read into the record, and they'll be submitted to every council person. So I'm just going to move on to the budget. The phone stopped ringing. How long do you want me to wait here?
Okay.
I did hear two opposed, but so that's still a majority.
Thank you.
Do you want me to read the email?
Oh, there's more email?
Yes.
Oh, you read the email.
Are
Yeah,
you
great.
talking-
Please read the email.
Are you talking about the one that was submitted after 5 o'clock?
No, I thought
No, I'm
Tom
talking
said,
about,
I thought Tom said that he would.
if anybody has missed this hearing on the budget, they're welcome to submit in writing the comment they want to make. And Grace will read the email address, and as long as they get it to the clerk by noon tomorrow, they could submit it to city council members and be read into the record. So Grace, go ahead. Please give the email address.
That email is clerk@cityofbinghamton.com. Again, it's clerk@cityofbinghamton.com.
Okay, on to introductory ordinance 20-95, considered in finance, Councilman Strawn.
You want 2995, Mr. President? That one?
Please.
Okay. I ask council for unanimous consideration of introductory ordinance 20-95, an ordinance to amend the 2020 capital budget to fund purchase of COVID-19 testing equipment in partnership with UHS.
Second that.
Questions or comments on this?
Call the question.
Call the question, Mr.
Question to
President.
call?
Okay.
Roll call, please, Grace.
Councilman Scaringi. Councilman Scaringi. Councilwoman Ressinetti.
Aye.
Councilwoman Riley.
Aye.
Councilwoman Friedman.
Aye.
Councilman Burns.
Aye.
Councilman Strawn.
Aye.
President Scanlon.
Aye.
Is Councilman Scaringi there?
Grace, I apologize. Just a computer audio issue. Aye on that. Thank you very much.
That's 7 ayes, 0 nays.
Okay, let's move back up to introductory. Thank you, Grace. Introductory ordinance 20-94. Considered finance, Councilman Strawn, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. And For unanimous consideration of introductory ordinance 20-94. That is an ordinance adopting the tax budget for the year 2021 as amended.
At this point, I will take a motion to hold this over because we're going to vote on this budget on Thursday. So someone please make a motion to hold this over.
Motion to hold this over, sir.
So
moved.
Second.
Okay, so we'll vote on this budget on Thursday. I believe we're all set here. Sharon, we can do anything else? We're all set?
Nope, you could take a motion to adjourn.
I'll take a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Motion adjourned.
So moved.